Right, so we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be going through Warno's 10 worst divisions for 1v1 ranked and talking about why they're bad and how I would fix them if I was given free reign on how to fix them. So yeah, we'll just go through them one at a time. We'll start with the 10th worst. Keep in mind there are 69 divisions in this game. Ho ho ha ha. There was 6, 7 before the last Nemesis. And so one in every 7 divisions is going to be in this list. So we're starting with the 10th worst division in Warno for 1v1, and that is UK 4th Armored Division. Man, is this division hard to play. Essentially, armored divisions generally have this thing where they've got tanks, yes, and then they have IFVs, infantry fighting vehicles, such as the Warrior, right? The Warrior Applique, for example, is one of the better ones in the game, actually. One of the best, actually. But yeah, the Warrior Milan's a bit more common. And essentially, the way you win tank fights in this game, you can just have loads of tanks. That does work. But the idea is you pad out the tanks with ATGMs because the ATGMs do a lot more damage than they do a lot more suppression than the tank does, even if the damage is low. So a Milan 1 will only do 1 damage to the front armor of like an M1A1 HA Abrams or something. It'll only really do 1 damage. But look at the suppression, it does 185 suppression, whereas the regular tank gun does 162, but the Milan seems to do suppression even if it misses, whereas the tank gun, if it misses, doesn't seem to do that much. And so the way you win tank fights is you pad out your, the IFV is 3 times cheaper than the tank, and the ATGMs really, really contribute in the fights. This is actually pretty realistic. If you look up Desert Storm, the Bradleys killed more tanks than the Abrams did. Because it was a mixed formation of Abrams and Bradleys, and the Bradleys were just hosing out TOW2s. So that does matter a lot. Now, this is an armored division without any IFVs. There's really not too many like that in the game. Something like 16th Belgium, sure, but they have forward deployment and their tanks are better and so on. The Chieftains, generally, their prices have come down a bit. But generally, the Chieftains, they're just bad because the most important stat for a tank is fire rate. It matters a lot more than you might think. So they're the same price, but the one on the left is way better. Most people just look at the big shiny number. They say, "Oh my goodness, 4 more pen, 4 more pen. Wow, what a whoa!" It's about the fire rate, right? When you one bet the M60, it's firing 10 times a minute. The Chieftain is more like 8, and it's about the fire rate because it tends to be that having the 4 more pen. By the way, it's 3 more pen because the M60 has more range. The M60 is also better against infantry because it has a 50 cal. The M60 is also faster. Not that much faster, but it is faster. So it is better. It's a lot better. The only time a Chieftain Mark 9 would be better is at closer ranges. The Chieftain Mark 9 will like one-shot a BMP. It still won't do it at max range. But at closer ranges, it'll like one-shot an IFV, whereas the M60 won't. But yeah, in terms of the soft stats, the stats that people generally don't think of as important, the Chieftains and the Centurions really struggle. Yeah, there's also this whole thing, so every tank in the game with like if you get a Dozer Blade, you get +1 front armor, that's just how it should work. So look, M47, 9 armor, M47 Dozer, 10 armor, right? But for whatever reason, the British tanks don't have that, even though they used to. They just removed it for some reason. So here's a Centurion, 10 armor, and then here's a Centurion with a Dozer Blade, 10 armor. Here's a 10 armor, 10 armor, for whatever reason, right? But yeah, all these other ones, like that's got 2, whereas the regular M113 has 1. So that's something I would fix in terms of how to make it better. Imagine if this had 11 armor, then it's surviving a Milan 2, and you'd probably make it 5 points more expensive, but then you've got a 60-point thing that survives Milan 2s. Honestly, might take this particular one out of the deck and replace with a second card of Mark 6-2s, because, yeah. And then this, if it had 11 armor because of the Dozer Blade plus the ERA, it would survive a Toe 2 hit, so it would be more like the American CEV, which costs the same amount. This does have smoke, so it would be very good if it was like that. So that would be a nice fix. The other thing is this plane is like why I don't understand why this thing costs 175 points, and it only has 2 availability. So, and it doesn't have a gun. Guns are extremely important for planes, because if you line up behind somebody on the way out, it's very important to have a gun. So the one on the left there comes at 3 per card. But yeah, looking at these ones, right, that's 175 points, right, and it shoots further, which means that the big missile's better, and the accuracy is actually the same because it's done off the max range. So the accuracy is about the same, it's got a gun, it costs the same amount, right? The secondary missiles are better on the Phantom, but I'd much rather have the one on the left every day of the week because the gun's so important. Just for like, oh, there's an infantry squad in the open and I don't have any bombers, you can just strafe it with your fighter, it'll suppress it, and then he won't get to where he's going. But no, you don't have that. This used to be 3 per card, but it was nerfed because of second UK back in the day, and then it just kind of stayed like that. So, yeah, that plane kind of sucks. The alternative would be to add the one from HDR, but even then, the one from HDR, it's like the same story again. I'm paying the same amount for worse missiles, and this time the accuracy is lower and the range is lower because of the scaling. It's like, yeah, but the secondary missiles. So, I'd much rather have the first shot off in a fight. Much rather have the one on the left, right? So yeah, the planes suck. The other thing is, so like the whole deal behind these is that they're super expensive because they have a long range missile on them, and it literally just doesn't matter because they've got a 10-second travel time. So like, when is this useful? It's much more useful to have a short range missile. You don't have any Helo Hunter, right? So you have to use the Jaguar if you want to kill helicopters. Like, you really do suck against helicopters. The Javelin LML doesn't go in buildings like it used to. If it went in buildings, that'd make this div a lot better. The recon slots could do with getting cheaper. And yeah, the chieftains, it's hard to price these things appropriately. But yeah, in terms of the soft stats, they suffer. Like, this is one of the most expensive tanks with 2 top armor and things like that. They don't get the... So the Abbott did get buffed in the last patch. But yeah, generally, like, so the Mott rifles are good. People keep saying, oh, the price needs to go up on this terrible division, right? Because they compare them to Streltsy. Streltsy are better, but they cost 5 points more, but they get a better transport as well. The Wombat also sucks. You could add another infantry slot and make the infantry prices cheaper, right? And then just lean into the fact that this is a trash div. The other thing is you could add the Gazelle rocket, but that might be a bit much. Also, the scouts don't come in the Lynx, which is really, really, really annoying because the Lynx is so much faster than the Gazelle and has more HP, and that would make for a super good opener if the scouts came in the Lynx, because you've seen how I play this div. I open with all these scouts and the Gazelles, and if it came in a Lynx, well then it would be almost 50% faster. It's going from approximately 200 to approximately 300 kilometers an hour, and it would cost like 10 points more or something. So putting the scouts in the Lynx, making the Wombat, like, this needs another buff. Like, the availability went up, but it just sucks. Like, there's no reason to bring it. You can make it 4 HP, or you could make it cheaper again, or you can make it more available, like 9 availability. That'd be something. And then, like, gun group. So, like, why am I paying 30 points for 4 dudes? Because, yeah, the idea is because you don't get IFVs. The way I do my ATGMing is I use this striker because it's got a high salvo length, whereas this one, It's time for me to thank the generous channel joiners, generously joining the channel. They get their names on the screen, they get the videos early, they get members exclusive videos, they're the ones making all of this possible. They also get a Steam key for my game Hearse Hero, which is on Steam. My game Hearse Hero is on Steam. My game Hearse Hero is on Steam. It costs less because it is a lot worse because it only fires 2, then it has to reload for 12 seconds. Whereas the one on the right fires 5 and then reloads, so it goes back to the point we're talking about, like, this goes with your tanks. And I use the Milan ones with the FV432 Milan. But if you could do that with gun group, then you could get out the Milans much more quick. I could probably still do that. It's just then I'd probably lose the Terriers and then I'd run out of infantry. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, make the slots cheaper. Fix this plane, make it cheaper, or make it more available again. I don't understand why it costs so much. This plane is overpriced anyway, because, like, why would I ever get the one on the right? It's just a worse version of the one on the left. And, yeah, you're paying for these long-range missiles, which aren't that useful. So, because this is just better. Because they don't have guns. Oh, actually, no, this one does have guns. This doesn't have guns. So, yeah, that's UK 4th Armoured. Very hard div to play. It's not too bad in the open, but yeah, close quarters, you really suck against, well, just any other infantry, because you don't have flash, you don't have submachine gun spam, which is OP now, you know, it's flash RPO, etc. You don't have coffin launchers, you don't have grenade launchers. You've just got this, which is, you know, not that great. This scat thing as well is like, oh, it's got 2 machine guns. It's like 30% better than the regular FV432. I don't even bring it. I think it's just a waste of points. So yeah, hopefully that covers that one. Then we'll move on to the 9th worst division, and that is Guzman El Bueno. Bueno, the tanks got more expensive because, ooh, the tanks in isolation are... I suppose we should probably do a summary of the division. So this came out in Nemesis 5, the Warno's worst DLC, featuring second check, which is actually pretty decent now because of the arty changes and the SMG changes, which helps this div a little bit, the SMG changes. But yeah, basically this bomber, the cluster one, used to drop from really far away, and people were like, oh, it's toxic. It's like one of the most annoying words I've ever had used. It's toxic. What does that even mean? Anything I disagree with is toxic. Anyway, it used to drop from really far away, and that was cool. It was like the F104. And this div was never strong. And people are like, ooh, they gotta nerf it. It's toxic. Even the way you say the word is just disgusting. Anyway, so they nerfed that, even though the div sucks. Then they changed these fighters so that this isn't a fire and forget missile anymore, so it doesn't fire all the bullets as fast, so that was a nerf. And then they made these tanks more expensive, which is a nerf. So why are you nerfing a division that's weak? And it's because people looked at this tank and they said, well, compare it to the Leopard 1, this tank should go up in price. Right, but that's... You don't play the game as an M48 tank, you play the game as a division. And this tank comes in this division only. So why are you nerfing the division? I keep having these conversations with people, and some people, they just don't seem to get it. I really wish the government would stop putting paint thinner in the water. I think we'd have much better conversations. The other thing is this division got indirectly nerfed from the changes to the artillery. So this used to be the best arty piece in the game, and you just got 2 of those at one bet and killed everything, and now it's not, because it gets counter-batteried really easily, because the range isn't so good, and so on. And also self-propelled mortars that are wheeled used to basically be invincible. As long as you just moved them every time, queued up move orders, you could never kill them. So the idea was you just spammed out the smoke, and you've got the big guns behind, and then you'd win. This thing sucks because 300mm diameter for 3 HE, 200mm diameter for 4.5 HE, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So yeah, it got nerfed by that, and now the meta's more about spamming, so like, this isn't so bad. This 122s at 4 per card, which is like the ones the Soviets, the Pactoids get. And also grenade launchers got nerfed, and grenade launchers used to I agree with the grenade launcher nerf. I agree with the artillery changes. It's just these things have unintended consequences on various divisions. Now, having said that, Zappadors are absolutely crazy right now because they get the 10-7-5 vet curve, which is kind of daft. Um, like this one's worse. You want two cards of this, but sadly this Zappadors doesn't come in the BMR, and this Zappadors is worse because it doesn't get the vet curve enhancement, and you're paying more the same amount of points even though it's worse now. Um, yeah, at least it's got a nicer transport. So the div, it can still work, right? I actually think it's slightly better than 4th Armoured because you've got the medium tank, so you're kind of faster off the bat, and like this beats the Chieftain Mark 9 because it fires fast, has one less pen because of the range, right? It doesn't survive a TOW 2, but it's way better against infantry, so it is a good tank. And it's got TOW 2s, and it's got, it doesn't have IFVs, but you sort of do the same thing with the Milans. Um, Also, you've got, TOW 2s with them. Your helos are worse, like your helos do suck. But your infantry's a lot better. You actually win infantry fights, whereas 4th UK doesn't really win infantry fights and doesn't really win tank fights. Um, but yeah, I noticed that I put this as the 9th worst, which means it's worse than 4th UK. And because yeah, like you don't. What do you do if not having a good helicopter like the Lynx or anything is a really big issue? This thing is terrible. So what do you do if the enemy does a breakthrough? Well, you got to chuck this at him and it won't kill him, right? Your strike craft are just not good. Your fighters are a little bit better, but and you get eye hawks, but you don't get any man pads. So you got to put this in the building and hope it hits something. Uh, yeah, it's like your infantry's a little better, but everything else is kind of a little bit worse, right? The lack of good helicopters is a really big issue because there's just so many situations where the enemy's doing a big armored push and his AA are behind his tanks because he doesn't want them to get shot by my tanks or whatever. So you just put one Lynx Hellam there, and then it just starts shooting him, and then he doesn't die usually, but he has to leave. The other thing with the Lynx Hellams is you can send them, like if you're fighting somebody straight on, you send it to the right, and then it starts getting free side shots, so that they're really useful. So yeah, not having the helos is annoying. Your anti-plane's a bit better, but your anti-helo is worse. And yeah, it's just a depressing div. So, number 8, we have the 8th worst, as in worse than second Bueno. We have Rugener, Division Rugener. Unfortunately, all my decks got deleted. I did have a Rugener deck. I have played the div. Like to think I know what I'm talking about. So yes, Rugener. Oh yeah, sorry. Well, I need to do some editing. How would you fix it? Well, that's a difficult question because, yes, I think the tank should come down in price, right? I don't think this should cost 195 points. It's terrible, but, it is fast, I suppose. The tank should come down in price, but then, because it's only in this division, and that's an easy way to fix the division. But people will say, oh, it costs what it's worth, it costs what it's worth. It's like, well, when was the last time you played Bueno? You don't, but you just want to make it shit so that you can be right on the internet. Spain should get minstrels. Spain got minstrels before Belgium did. Belgium has 4 cards of minstrels, Spain has none. Why? Just give them a card of minstrels so the anti-helo's better. You could do the standard, make the slot costs cheaper. Did they really not stick an ATGM on one of these at any point in their existence? I find it very hard to believe that they wouldn't have an ATGM helicopter, given how common they were. And the other thing is, like, the slot costs are quite expensive, actually. But yeah, if you make, like, so the Fusileros are probably underpriced. Because it's 11 dudes for 55 points. But, so you can't make those any cheaper. You could add another card of M48s. Because you do tend to run out of tanks. That would help a lot, actually. Just make the tanks a little cheaper and add more of them. Figure out a way to add an ATGM healer. I hate having these people live rent free in my head. It's like, yeah, but that didn't happen, so you can't do it. Right, but in war, people adapt very, very, very quickly, and in this time frame, the war is actually gonna happen. Whereas in real life, the Soviet Union was winding down, so loads of things got cancelled in the West, right? Because they were like, well, we've won. But in this time frame, we haven't won. There's going to be a war. So a lot of these projects that got cancelled would obviously not get cancelled in that case. Yeah, but it didn't happen. Right, unlike World War Three. Frankly, I wish it happened. We would have cleared out the gene pool a little bit. Anyway, the seventh worst division in Warno is Rugener. Rugener is definitely worse than the two we've covered. This div is just for 1v1, right? Most divs can work in team. It's probably worth mentioning that. Like in the last 2v2, I lost last 2v2 tournament. I lost a game against somebody who was playing Guzman or Bueno, right? And in a recent 2v2 game, I won as fourth armored. So no, that was HDR, which is good fourth armored. Anyway, Rugener. So East Germany gets like a few divs where like so KDA ain't actually too bad in 1v1, and in team it's goated because of the Smirch and the Napalm thing. But these other kind of secondary East German divs are really not great. So Rugener is just a really weird div. So unlike the last two we covered, it gets fighting airborne forward deployment with AT and satchels. Like this is a good unit, and it can come in the MI8. Which means that you can do some crazy openers with airborne forward deployed fast helicopter inserts with AT, so they can't just drive. Like, this is a good squad. So that is good. But generally, it's better to bring it in the car because it's safer, right? Because what if you're against a guy with forward deployed AA? If you open with the helos, you basically have to open with this thing. The air tab isn't so bad. Like, I've played this div a lot, it just, my deck's got nuked, right? You don't have a cheap CV option in this tab, which is annoying, but you know the slots are cheap, so you can do like the fact that this costs the same as that is a bit silly, really. It doesn't really make any sense, but there it is, because this is armored, so why wouldn't you bring that? It's got the same availability. You get grenade launchers, which is good. You get mot shots and SVD, which is good. You get mot shots and BTR, which is good. You get Pychota ZMech SVD, which is good. You get Pychota ZMech regular, which is okay, I suppose. You get good AT. Like you do much better in like forest fights and stuff. Like these squads are nice. 60 points for 12 dudes at, and 70 points for 12 dudes with a flamethrower is going to kill people. Your infantry tab is really good, right? But that's kind of where that's kind of where the book stops. So your arty tab is really good because the D30s or whatever they call the 130 millimeters. Oh, you get D30s as well. They're meta now. This is meta now. This is like super meta. So you wouldn't bring this. You'd bring two cards of these at one vet. Coffin launcher, smoke. That's how I'd do it. Because the range, it's the range. It makes you very good at counter batterying and so on. And they're not expensive. They're inexpensive. So, but yeah, then this is where the problems start, right? So your tanks. You get one card of tanks that actually do anything. That's the big issue. That is the big issue with this div. You get one card of tanks that actually do anything. So you're in this situation, and it's got 14 pen at max range, so it's not like you just really struggle to kill enemy tanks. This isn't a Conkers or anything. It's a Malyutka, which means it's slow and the pen isn't great. The missile speed matters a lot, and that's not on the stat card. This can't be mega vetted, unlike the ones in other divisions. So you can bring them at like 5 at 2 vet, and then at close ranges because it's kinetic. Because it'll fire at like 12 rounds a minute with 55% accuracy. Kinetic. You can use it to ambush people, but you can't do that here because it's no vet. I mean, you can still bring it, but the slots aren't great either. So you forced to rely on T-55As, which are good at fighting infantry, and T-72s without the the base T-72, which is good at fighting infantry and light tanks. But how do you kill enemy mediums or heavies? You basically just don't have good answers to that. Your AA tab, like the Krug, is good in team. Like, so this is why it's such a good team game division. You've got the long range arty. You've got the. You can just get 6 Krugs and whatever, and just put them behind your lines, and eventually you'll hit something. But in 1v1, this is very expensive and it's very unreliable because it's got 30% accuracy. So you're relying on Shilkas and Strellas for the most part. Like a card of Cubs would be much better. This thing is good. Yeah, so it's just like it's nice to have this. 6 at 2 vet is good. This with the 30 AP max range, but it's only got 1 missile because, and I shit you not, it the guy I was talking to was like, oh, well, it never had 2 missiles because it needs this to shoot. And then somebody found a photo of it with 2 missiles. Still got 1 missile though. Because it's only got 35% accuracy, it's just going to miss a lot. If you look at the Tropic Thunder dev blog reviews, you'll see there's one that's similar but has 2 missiles. But yeah, you can land it and it can shoot while landed at 3,000 meters range, which is pretty funny. And then this is nice. And then your playing tab isn't so bad. Like, this is 3 per card, unlike that Phantom. And this has a gun. So what most people do is they do that. So it comes at 2 vet and you still get 2. Which gives it basically 20% ECM. Because it's evasive maneuvers, which are better. These are only 3 per card. It's like, why? Should be 4, really. This thing's not so bad. But yeah, you struggle against tanks, right? And the meta is tanks. So what are you going to do? You get this, and you get... this is a very nice rocket plane, but it doesn't have the side missiles, unlike the very, very nice rocket planes. And this AT plane is not the fire and forget one, so it really struggles to kill the tanks. And this drops from high altitude, so the tank just moves. So you struggle to kill tanks, and the meta's to spam tanks. But if you get a map like Tala, you can win on Tala, because you just put this in a bush somewhere and it kills all the infantry. Although it used to fire, isn't this the one that used to fire at like 20 rounds a minute or something? And your infantry is really good. But for the most part, you're going to be against medium tank spam, and at max range. If you get Tala, great. If you get Factory, wonderful. But if you get something like Vertigo, you've had it. So how would I fix it? Give him a second card of this. Give him a second card of this, but without the whatever, the instructor. You run into these issues with like historical accuracy, because it's like, well, what did they actually get? But honestly, some divs, because the point is, it's really good in team games. Because you've got the coffin launchers, and the grenade launchers, and the flamethrowers, and the very good town fighting infantry, and the super long range AA, and the very nice arty. So you just set up in the town, and especially in like a 10v10, you're like, I fight in town, and you just go fight in the town. The Krugs cover you, the arty covers you, the coffin launchers kill everything in front of you. Like, you'd probably bring a second card of coffin launchers if you were doing that. And then like maybe down vet this, replace that with the coffin launchers. And you just grind through the town for the whole game. And so it's difficult to fix that. Like, basically, it needs a second card of these. but that would make it, even stronger in team games. So yeah, it needs better tanks. But it's not always prudent to do that. Right, next we have... the 6th worst division in Warno 1v1 is 76Y, which my deck also got nuked as well. So 76Y is another div that's really good in 10v10. It's a VDV div, and it gets the MiG-31s. It gets 4 MiG-31s, and basically you just buy those, have them up the whole game, and use the EW plane to just scout, and then arty stuff. So, and then you just fight in the town, which you get to first. You've got very nice infantry for the town. You've got Spetsgrupper, which got better because this Their machine gun got upgraded. The Desatniki BMD availability went up a bit, so you can get more BMD2s and stuff. So you get good infantry for sure. You're an airborne div, but and you get cheap CVs for the start. You get like so. I won a 3v3 game against a team that organised the 3v3 tournament and had been practicing loads, and they got really salty about it. They actually brought it up to me again the other day. You want to cast games where I lose all this stuff. And I played 76Y into them in a 3v3, and we won. And part of that, obviously, I had two teammates who did a lot of work, was that we opened with one of these down every single road. And, like, just every road on the map, I gave them to all my teammates. And behind that, we had this, which is also forward deployed AA, right? So I was getting everywhere first, allowing my teammates with the slower divs to catch up, and I was sniping enemy transports on the road. And then I switched into like grad spam and just like being the firefighter, right? Because I won my lane and then I went and helped my teammates. So it can work, but in a 1v1, like to be honest, this is actually pretty good now because it's good at counter battery and stuff if you get four of those out. But it's very, very supply hungry, and your supply situation's kind of terrible. Like your Logitab's expensive. The deepest lore is that these guys are attacking the French nuclear silos back when they actually used to write lore as opposed to just listening to Wormtongue with his BA in history. So your infantry's great. Your arty's not so bad actually, but the range does let you down. But you can shoot these in like 14 seconds. It's good in team games, but like this should probably get a little bit cheaper. Because yes, it's got a very nice ATGM and smoke and so on, but it's like super good at killing people, but it dies very easily and it's got bad stealth. So it's kind of hard to use that. Although, didn't it used to be 110, so maybe it already has come down in price. You also don't get any helicopters, like, at all. Like, at all. You don't even get a recon helicopter. Nothing comes in helicopters anywhere. Right? There's quite a few divs that don't have a heli tab, and then they're like, here's your 4 recon hinds in the recon tab. 20th mot shots, and I'm looking at you. But yeah, you don't get any helicopters. And it's very hard to, because yeah, you get the drone thing, but those aren't as good as they used to be. So if the enemy does an armored breakthrough, you've had it. And like your bombers, you don't really get like you struggle to kill enemy helicopters basically because you don't want to chuck a 300-point MiG at it. You don't get a helo hunter. Your AA in general could be better, so you have to buy the MiG-31s. So you're doing this airborne forward deployment, and then if the enemy sort of switches into air spam, you have to buy some pretty expensive stuff to deal with it. And you suck at killing tanks because it's just like spam ATGMs at him. Now, against a bad player, ATGM spam kills tanks just fine. But against a good player, he's just going to do what they all do. They're going to blob all their tanks together, and they're going to get a recon in front, drive all the tanks forwards, your ATGM shoots, everybody returns fire and kills you, and then the wounded one they send back, and they'll just blob around the map, killing all the ATGMs. But against a bad player, ATGMs are like very good because they just drive into it and die. They don't know what to do. The other thing is smoke. Somebody's ATGMing you, you just smoke off that position, or you just regular arty that position. So it tends to be you win in a bit at the start, and then you very quickly fall off to just a mechanized slop. And air spam doesn't win games. Air spam makes you lose against... you can sort of catch somebody off guard, and certain matchups they struggle to do with it, but your bombers are actually not that good. This is good, but it's got a 4-minute reload, right? And it's expensive. This is good, but it's 1 per card, and it's 315 points. So, your planes are very expensive. I'm not saying these planes should get cheaper. This one definitely should. This sucks. Why am I paying 35 more points for a worse plane? It doesn't make any sense. This should be 235 points. Um, so yeah, it's I mean, the easy way to fix it would be add helicopters, but then you would lose the whole divisional identity and the whole point of the division. Um, who knows? Like, was there no MiG 31 with only R60s, and then that would kill the that would kill the helicopters maybe. But yeah, basically, it's a difficult problem to solve. But I'd probably make this a little bit cheaper, right? Like only like 5 points cheaper, and then I honestly think all LGBT should be two per card. My thought process is, well, you're paying 315 points for it anyway. So if somebody wants to spend 1,260 points on LGBT initiatives, then you're gonna win anyway. So, so yeah, that could probably get cheaper. This needs to get cheaper. Um, it's just one of those things where, like, the div's good in team. You could maybe make, but the reason the Logi slots are expensive is because it's attacking the French nuclear silo, so everything in here has been dropped out of a plane. So, yeah, it's a difficult problem to solve. Um, yeah, it's just, basically, some divs like lose against the meta because like every well-designed div should have a counter. Some divs don't have any, so second Panzergren, 79Y, 20th Polish to an extent, they don't have any counters, right? Because they just do everything. But a well-designed div has counters, and this div, like so many of the divs in this list, is just countered by the meta. And if you're countered by the meta, then you're just going to have a tough time in 1v1 because you're always going to be against the meta. So yeah, you just really struggle to kill tanks. That's the main issue. Um, yeah, it is what it is. So the next worserist, the fifth worserist division. So this one is worse than 76Y. Is 152 easy. Once again, my deck got nuked. I have played the div a lot. So 152 easy was added in the same DLC as 76Y. Because they're the guys the 76Y paratroopers are attacking to seize the French nuclear silo. And this div, like, it's another one of these. Well, in team it's not too bad, but basically you've got a decent infantry tab because of these commandos d'Hilaire, which actually got nerfed. So basically this VIB used to have special forces, and that made it go at 120 kilometers an hour at 2-vet, and it actually made it do well with the anti-aircraft gun. And so it was about the VIBs, but sadly that got nerfed, and then like basically it's like, how should we fix it? We'll just give this the special forces trait back, right? And then the div would be a lot better because you've got 8 of these and they are really strong, and they would be even stronger. But this generates problems with people saying the commandos d'Hilaire are too strong, but it's like, yes, but the rest of the division is crap. But I don't know, people, they don't really look past these things. Not everybody does this, but I guess the ones who do stick in my head. This is a new unit added to the div to make it slightly better, so you get the instructor infantry, so you can buff up the reservists. The reservist LRAC could come in the reservist VAB. That would be very useful. That would help a lot, actually. This could have an instructor VAB, I suppose. But the general idea is you've got a bunch of reservist infantry and a bunch of tanks that absolutely suck. Well, that is, you want to define that as a tank, be my guest. Probably shouldn't be 55 points. This thing should probably have mediocre stealth because it's a tiny little tank destroyer. And it'll come up again in a future example. Your AA sucks because well, you do get minstrels, but the Crotal, to be honest, you actually get better AA than the Paris division, which is pretty funny because they don't get the minstrels. And like this thing, it's not as bad as the one Paris gets, but yeah, your tank tab's terrible, and like, why is this fighter 3 per card? It doesn't make any sense. It has 80, like, it's 80 points for a reason, right? And the other thing is it got nerfed because this used to be fire and forget, which meant that it would just rattle off all the missiles. You'd buy all three at once, and it would rattle off all the missiles. This Colt should have 4 guns, not one. But yeah, this should be 4 per card. These should be 4 per card as well. I don't understand why these cheap bombers are 3 per card. It's basically just like skill issue on people who don't buy any AA. And they're like, oh, I just lost 4 units, it's not fair. Well, it's like, sometimes your actions have consequences. If you bought AA, you would one-shot this with a Crotal or whatever, and it'd be dead. So yeah, that's how you'd fix it. It's just another case of, so the way this division is played is you have these flying columns of, because you've got integrated AA, so you've got forward deployed AA and forward deployed very nice unit, and then you sort of stuff the gap with all these Milan 1s, Milan 2s, and they come in Milan transport, so they're not actually so bad. So like the div, I should know, right? Those of you who played the game when it first came out know that when we said a bad div, there were some divs which were literally like, you can't win with this div. You suck. There's no divs like that anymore. Even the worst divs in Warno, you can still win, and they still have valid paths to victory in 1v1. So that is actually a very, very good thing, and it does need to be said. That being said, some divs are easier to play than others. But yeah, this isn't even a good team div because the RT's not good. But the general strategy is you've got all these VABs and stuff, right? Sadly, this guy doesn't have AT, and this guy does, but he doesn't come in the nice transport. And so you've got these nice fast transports with fast AA with them, right? And fast tanks. And you do these flying columns everywhere where you just run down a road with a bunch of these AML-90s, and you're like shooting smoke everywhere. And you block out your own French patch apparently because you're so upset with what your government has given you. And if you run into any problems, you just toss one of the super retards are actually really good. Because look at the accuracies on that. So if you run into a problem, you chuck one of these at it, and you can maintain air super. Like, I've lost games to 152 easy. The last 2 games I played against it, I lost. Because you can just saturate. Like, in 1 minute, you can buy all 3 of these. In 1 minute, you can buy all 3 of these. And so you play a very rapid momentum game with these super fast things going everywhere. But it's just way, way harder to execute that strategy than it is to play the mech slop meta of I buy medium tank, I buy IFV, I walk forwards. So essentially at the start of the game you can be winning, but then you'll very quickly find that the map just fills up and there's nowhere left for you to go, because these tanks essentially die in 1 hit. So if there's a medium tank there and they're heat, that would be, if I had like free reign to fix the div. Obviously we've suggested some other things, but imagine if the AML-90s had kinetic rounds, so that if you got really close you could actually do a lot of damage to these tanks. Wouldn't that be crazy? So there is a path to victory, and like this squad is really good now because SMGs are all good now. So but it's just a very, very difficult strategy to execute compared, and it loses to the meta of I buy medium tank, I buy IFV. So it's a hard div to play. Next up, the 4th worst div, very, very similar, is Division du Rhine, which I think is worse than 152E, because it's 152E without the Commandos de l'air, and without the Appalache, I think, and without the speed, and also its planes are worse. So it's like a worse version of 15. It's like the slower version of 152E. So yes, you get lots of infantry, and the reservist sappers have AT, but you don't get the reservist VIB or VAB or whatever in any of them. You don't get the reservist VAB. so you can't do the VAB spam. At least your ATGMs come in ATGM transports, that's nice. You don't get the airborne forward deployment, so you don't get there first. Your RT is better, so you're better in team games because you get the iHawk and you get the MLRS, and you know self-propelled 155s work in big team games because they do actually move out of the way in time and stuff like that. Because the maps are so big, you're firing a max range all the time. So it's better in team but worse in 1v1. Because yeah, you don't get the VABs, which are super nice to have. Your tanks are slightly better because this can be upvetted, right? And basically you just bring 2 of these to every fight. Also, these have ATGMs on them, which means that you're sort of doing like an ersatz version of the I buy medium tank, I buy IFV, except it's I buy light tank. It's a reference to the armor and the price, by the way. It's not a reference to you. They're all main battle tanks, Hippie. Oh right, okay, yeah. It's all Aladdin, is it? You are HIV Aladdin. Wow, what a great system. And it's got 4 before it has to reload. So the idea is you're fighting with this, and you've got your ATGM chassis behind, and that's just rattling them off. And you can sort of saturate the enemy tanks and win a kind of early to mid game battle before the. Because the fact of the matter is, if I can just buy Leopard 1s, I'm just going to kill all of this. And Leopard, medium tank spam is the meta, so you lose hard to that. But you do get a good early to mid game. It's like slightly later than the 152E, right? But your planes suck. Your AA is better because you get the iHawks and you don't get minstrels, but like this thing's not so bad, I guess. Did it get buffed with all the Bofors? Oh no, this was the one that got buffed. But yeah, this thing's not so bad. It's good against infantry. You do get better ATGM helos, and you get the Gazelle cannons, which are useful. Although you can only bring like that basically. But your planes are worse, so you really, because this has 8 HP. So if the enemy buys a Leopard 2 or an M1 Abrams or just anything, you just really, really, really struggle to kill the enemy tanks. And you don't get anywhere in this div Appalachian, unlike 152E. So you can't even chuck a bunch of smoke at him, run at him, and Appalachian him. No, your best AT is the Carl Gustav, which isn't very good. So it's a very, very hard div to play. It's very, very hard to play. So that's why it's the 4th worst division. How would you fix it? Well, I think they should make these mediocre stealth, because it's small. But you get this, it's just the same thing, where they're like, it's the same thing, but with ATGMs on it. Like, oh, it's toxic. Right, it's like, this division sucks. We should give it an advantage. No, it won't be fun to fight against. But you're not going to play it, and you basically just want to make the division shit, so you don't have to worry about it. I think every division should be viable, and if that means that some of them have unique playstyles, isn't that a good thing? Because yeah, this should have mediocre stealth, problem solved. Because then you've got the tank fight, and you've got 24 mediocre stealth SS11s just pouring it on them all game. And it's like, yeah, that wouldn't be too fun to fight into, okay. But do you think it's fun to fight into your div all the time? Your meta sweat div where you buy a medium tank and an IFE and you just walk around the map? No, of course not, but it is what it is. I'm not in charge. Anyway, the 3rd worst div in Warno. Getting to the really bad ones now. Berlin Gropers is the 3rd worst div in Warno. It's a division that doesn't really go anywhere. It's like a bad version of Du Rhein. Sorry, not Du Rhein, Rugener. It's a bad version of Rugener. So your infantry is slightly better than Rugener's, because you get Vakschutz and RPO. And Vakschutz and Stoss now are going to be crazy good, because the SMGs got better. So this is a very good squad, because the Scorpions and the Satchels and the Shock and the Resolute will just melt you. So your infantry tab's good, but you don't get airborne forward deployment. Like, your recon tab is kind of crap. You don't get recon helicopters or drones, like the 76Y player would get a drone. so you just can't see anything. You're like, this is a nice squad, and that's about it for this tab. Gren's a flam if you want a flamethrower, frankly, but you don't really need that because you've got enough RPOs and stuff in this tab. Like this water squad. Honestly, it's probably better, instead of bringing the Mott Shots and SVD, I should probably just bring 2 cards of Backshots, and because it's got shock, and you trade, and you got 2 more guys for 5 points. You do lose an MG, but you got 2 more guys, and you've got the shock, so yeah, swap that with Backshots and card real quick. But yeah, you don't get airborne forward deployment unlike Rugener, and you don't get any tank better than the T-55A. I mean, the flamethrower one, I guess you could say, is better, but it's just the same, but with a flamethrower. So what do you do? What do you do? You buy T-55As all game, and you just hope you get a map like Omen, or Tala, where the ranges are quite short and the T-55A can work. But generally, you have a decently strong... It's kind of the same curve in terms of like power over time as do Rhine, because you don't get any airborne forward deployment, and you get a bunch of these light tanks. Oh, it weighs so much, Hippie. Please be quiet. So you don't show up first, but in the early game you got a bunch of 2-vet T-55As, although I started down-vetting them because I ran out. And you just fight. You're covered by Cubs, which are way better than Krugs because it's 4 per card and it's more accurate. It doesn't one-shot, but it's probably going to hit them. And basically you fire 2 bullets and they rout. You've got the Shilkers, you've got this thing, which is really good. Your air tab is decent. You don't get Seed. But yeah, you need these to kill the planes. You get the MiG-31 now. That was added to it, and it's the best MiG-31 because it's got the fire and spaghetti missiles. That was moved from 6Y to Berlin Gropers to help it. So that is a buff. You get these now, which is a nice... Because you don't get recon healers, it's nice to have that, actually. But yeah, you don't get an ATGM helo, which makes you struggle. You don't get a recon helo. You don't get any tank better than a T-55A. So it comes back to this point of like, well, how would you fix it? Well, would I fix it? I mean, I think this was a good change. This seems to be a good change. I think they should get a recon helo. I don't understand why they don't have one. And give them another air slot with a seed plane or something, because they can kill the tanks. Give them an ATGM helo. These guys are fighting in Berlin. And 6Y got all the good tools and they got all the bad tools. That's why this was moved from 6Y. Because they both used to be one division called Untermezentrum. So, the thing is, right, if you just like fix it by just giving them a better tank than the T-55A, 1 card of T-72s, or 1 card of T-64As, or whatever, then you destroy the division identity and you just make it more like every other division. But the div really does need some help, like it does really suck. The alternative solution is to just make all the tabs really cheap so that you can just bring more and more and more and more and more and more, right? Because like the T-34 is kind of useless and pointless. They can make that 25 points, I guess, but... And then, like, if you made this tab cheaper, yeah, that's how I would fix it. I would give him an ATGM helo, so that you've got something to do with the tanks. Maybe give him an extra playing card, and I would just make these tabs, the tank tab, just way cheaper, so that you can just be the spam, right? Next up, second worst division in Warno for 1v1 is 15th ZMech. It was very, very, very funny watching the usual suspects mauling in the usual places when this division was revealed. They said things like, why would anybody play 4th? Why would anybody play 20th when you have 15th? And then it came out, they tried it once, and they were like, wow. Wow. This div is bad. So, yeah, what do you do with 15th ZMech? In fact, this div might actually be better than Berlin Gropers because it's got the ATGM helo of some description, but it doesn't have a lot of helos. And oh no, I remember now. It doesn't have long range AA, does it? Yeah, it doesn't have long range AA. So yeah, it's got airborne forward deployment, the proto SAS whatever, and it's got the funny honker Reese thing, which actually overtakes the airborne forward deployment because it goes at 120. So even though it starts further behind, it's got this. It's got a very nice recon helo. But yeah, it doesn't have long range AA, which makes it struggle quite a bit actually. Only one card of OSAs is a problem. And then yeah, you don't have like good man pads or anything, it's just the Strela. The Scott 2 AP thing sucks. That's actually a very good point. That needs to be addressed. The Scott 2AP is supposed to be an upgrade of the Scott 2A, and the idea is that the KPVT is now on a better mount, right? And so it can shoot at helicopters and aircraft. And in exchange for it getting a better mount, it fires less far against ground targets, and it has half the accuracy. So it costs more, but it's it does at least half the damage. It does less than half the damage, because if you half the accuracy, you half the damage, right? And it doesn't shoot as far, which means also, again, it does less damage. And it costs more. But it's like, yeah, but it could shoot a plane. It could shoot a plane. Yeah, maybe if it's a flippin' A-10 flying directly over it without shooting it, but otherwise, the range is so bad that it cannot shoot a plane. Yeah, but it can shoot a helo with that range. Have fun. So this thing sucks, and they should fix it. They should give it the same ground range as the Scott 2A, and the same accuracy as the Scott 2A, and all of a sudden, wow, it's now actually an upgrade. But for whatever reason, the upgrade is a significant downgrade. So that's not a good piece of kit. It's a good way to fix it. You get the cheap CVs and stuff, you get the airborne forward deployment. This is a good squad now, because... Actually, that is a great squad now, because the SMGs are better, and it's very cheap. You do get, you know, SVDs, lots of SVDs. You do get... Like, Wusu should probably get slightly cheaper. You can get 6 rocket helos. You can get lots and lots and lots of SVDs. You get a Conkers, the only Polish Conkers, although it is an East German. Whatever, Lend-Lease Conkers. Another way to fix this div would be that... So HE MLRS sucks. I know I keep mentioning this. 240mm mortar, 3 HE. 240mm rocket artillery. And it's a lot longer, so it should be carrying a lot more explosive filler. 2.4 HE. Why? It should literally be twice as much. Yeah, it gets the 122 spam, which is always good now. The mortars it gets are really nice. Like, this mortar's really good, because it doesn't cost that much, and it's got 2 HE and 6,000 meters range, so these actually do quite a bit. Honestly, this div... Well, it doesn't get the MiG-31, it doesn't get the Cubs, but I would prefer to play this div over Berlin Gropers in a lot of cases, because you've got the airborne forward deployed with AA, and you actually do have a card of medium tanks, and you've got the coffin launchers, and you've got the T-55As. It would be cool to get an instructor tank, so that your T-55Us actually have an instructor tank with them, so you can actually use them, because you get 2 cards, but they're reservists, so they kind of suck. Yeah, so like this div, its infantry isn't as good as Berlin Groper's infantry, but its tanks are better, but its AA isn't as good, but its bombers are better, because the fighter's more usable, right? The MiG-31's kind of a bit bulky and awkward. And you get, you know, nice rocket plane, you do get Siege, you get AT, you get Cluster. Just got to make sure you don't buy the, because your problem's enemy heavy tanks, right? You just got to make sure you can get this for helo huntering, although the rocket plane does that, so you might just want this one, because you don't get the Cubs, so you do need lots of good fighters. So your air spam's better, So it's a toss-up really between which one's worse, Berlin Gropers or this one. Berlin Gropers gets better infantry, but this one gets better tanks and better air and better helicopters. But worse AA, so they literally complement each other, they solve each other's problems. I don't recommend picking them both in a 2v2, I don't think that'd go very well for you, but the idea is this has problems that the other one doesn't have, and vice versa. But yeah, if you wanted to fix it, make the Scott 2 AP not crap, because that comes on a lot of units in this div. And, this could probably do with getting a little bit cheaper, maybe, but maybe not. You could give it a nicer transport. I don't know. So that like another card of these would be nice. Like only having 2 helicopters kind of sucks. Although you do get 6 rocket helos with the Commandozi, and the Sokol's super fast. It's actually a pretty good helo there, because it can survive a manpad hit. It's really fast. But yeah, you need an instructor tank with the T-55Us. Otherwise, you're bringing Wusu and the Wusu vehicle. Wusu are a little bit overpriced for what they are, so you could bring that down. Oh yeah, they don't get grenade launchers, which is difficult, and they do get coffin launchers though, unlike Berlin Gropers, right? And so you got to put the Wusu thing with it. Yeah. Yeah, what more is there to say? You could give it like the Repairer AT, so it's got a bit more of open range. Honestly, thinking about it, I'd rather play this than Berlin Gropers. Because the infantry you've still got the Reese's Pieces, so you're just going to delete people with the Reese. You know, that's not a bad squad. The SVD squads aren't bad squads. This isn't bad. But yeah, it just really sucks in the open. If you get a map like Stoneware, it's like, well, you're dead. But then again, so does Berlin Gropers, so yeah. Maybe Berlin Gropers is worse than this, looking at it. But they're both bad, so... But that brings us to last, and also least, the worst division in Warno 1v1 in the entire divisional universe. The Warno cinematic universe is 303 Czech. My goodness, what a terrible, terrible division. So, you don't get good infantry. The only thing that you get in this tab that's worth note... Oh yeah, the Zenisti are sort of broken right now. The Czechs get grenade launchers, but they don't get them here. You get a bunch of, like, militia that you can't up there. You get a bunch of reservists. This is a pretty funny transport. Is these guys, they're 16 dudes with a Taras Nice T21. But honestly, if they were 8 dudes with a Taras Nice T21, they'd be a much, much better squad, because they would cost a lot less. And so you could get more of them out. You get 1 card of BVP-1s. 1 card of Streltsy, right. Yarati, you don't get the good 105s. Sorry, the good 122s. You don't get the good 105s either. This thing got nerfed to no vet, even though it's got a salvo length of 2, which makes it way worse than the M110, and it shouldn't have been nerfed to no vet. Although this was added to the division in the last patch, so you can see they are trying to fix these problems, you know. Right, they've buffed it in the last patch. But yeah, you get 1 card of instructor tanks, and then you just get infinite. Like, I think this should be 25 points. T54s that you can't 2-vet. Why not? And T54s are actually worse than T55s because they are heat, not kinetic. So they're better. They're slightly better against infantry because they've got an extra PKT or something, which isn't a big deal. And they're a lot cheaper, which is a big deal. But they suck against tanks. So like, you get the worst of all worlds basically. You don't even get the T55As that Berlin Gropers gets. You do get 1 card of these, but it doesn't have smoke. And then you get SD100s, which should have mediocre stealth because it's a tank destroyer, but for whatever reason it's bad. And the T34, which could do it getting a little bit cheaper. and you don't get a recon helicopter, so you could add a recon helicopter. Just put a guy with binoculars in that, right? Problem solved. Um, yeah, you get the Krug instead of the Cub. You don't get a Shilker or anything, so you're using the Jesterka and this thing, which ain't so bad, but you only get one card. This thing's not so bad either. You can't 2-vet your Strellas. So if you get Fliegerfaust or Strellas, the way you make them usable is you 2-vet them because you still get 6. Well, you can't do that here. You don't get an ATGM helo. Like, why isn't there just one of these with a, somebody found a Kokon and strapped that to it, right? What the heck's going on there? This one actually is slightly underpriced, but the div sucks, so I don't think they should make it worse. It would be cool if you got 2 cards of this, because it's got very nice rockets on it. 19th Czech gets a much better version of this. And your planes, you don't even get a long-range fighter. And then, like, how do you kill tanks? Well, this is how you kill tanks. And like, this has a ridiculously long reload time for a rocket plane, and it costs more, and it's worse than every other rocket plane in the game because of the reload time. It's like, yeah, but it fires so many bullets. That's not what you need it for. So, could have a better air tab, could have a better heli tab, could have a better AA tab, could have a better recon tab, could have a better tank tab, could have a better arty tab, could have a better infantry tab, and could have... I mean, the Logi tab's great, actually, because you get cheap CVs. And, there's a reason it's the worst div in the game. So how would you fix it? Just split this squad into 2 8-man squads. With the Taurus Nice. Make it 2 cards, right? And then you can spam out T21s. That's sort of what I wanted for second check, which isn't a bad div, it's just very boring. They had a guy with a T21 on the cover, and then they didn't put anybody with a T21 in the division, except this vehicle, which is already in this division. And the guy unironically said, I couldn't tell if he was trolling, he's inside the vehicle. What can I say? Give it cubs. Let this be 2-vet. I think the idea is it's supposed to... Well, but why is this 2-vet? Why can't this be 2-vet if that one can? What's going on here? Give this its mediocre stealth back. Give it a card of T55As, maybe. Maybe give it a second card of these. But honestly, like, good luck. You could honestly give it some Osas, because the way you play this div is like a slow version of 152E, where you do flying columns, except they don't fly, they crawl. Because instead of it being a VAB or an AML-90, it's this, and this, and this. So it could use some portable Shorad, and the Jesterka doesn't really cut it. You could give it a second card of Jesterkas, or you could just give it an Osa, give it a card of Osas, that would help. Reduce the price of this because it sucks. Give it more anti-tank options, one of these with binoculars on it for the recon tab. Another one of these just regular, and one of these with ATGM strapped to it for the heli tab. So, I hope you've learned something. So just to, I'll get a tier list up here so you can just quickly recap. Just to quickly recap. In summary, the 10th worst division in 1v1 is 4th UK Armoured. People say, I'm sure there's a worse div than that. Well, look, 1/7 of the divs in the game are here. 1 in every 7 divs is here, so no, there isn't. So sort of honourable mentions, you could say, like 17Y, maybe. KDA is not actually that bad, it's just a little bit awkward to play. But yeah, 17Y you could have like as 11th. I think 157's pretty good, but that's just me. So yeah, 10th worst is going to be 4th UK, 9th worst, 2nd Bueno, 8th worst Rugener, 7th worst 76Y, 6th worst 152 Easy, 5th worst Durine, 4th worst Berlin Gropers, 2nd the best, 2nd the worst is 50th Polish, and 1st the worst is 303 Czech. But honestly, looking at it, I've changed my mind. I think 15th Polish is better than Berlin Gropers. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. A bit different from the usual videos. If you made it to the end, I do appreciate you. Generous channel joiners, generously joining the channel, etc. Have a lovely day.